I have my friend Josi on the podcast. Is this your first time on the podcast?
No, it's my second time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so as well.
We did like the influencer one.
Yes, yes. I've actually gotten a lot of requests for that topic again. At first, I was like doing a lot of that topic, and then everyone was like, can we not talk about this topic because like not everyone's an influencer? And I was like, you know what? Y'all are correct.
Yeah.
And now I get more inundated with requests for that topic.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess there's like a lot more to talk about now with like so many different layers to social media and like ways you can do it, and it's changing every single day. Like the way we approach our jobs is changing every single day.
Totally.
But I don't want to talk about that today.
But more of the story is we don't want to talk about that.
Okay, guys, we're not talking about that today. All right, so Josi is here. Josi's one of my friends, one of my more longtime influencer friends.
Yeah.
We met each other quite a long time ago through Claudia, probably.
Yeah.
And she's been on my podcast before, and we've been through a lot of things since we've met.
So
We've become pretty much different people than the people we both met, which I think is pretty special that we're still friends now.
Yeah.
After meeting each other in such like a pivotal time in both of our lives and becoming genuinely different versions of ourselves in that short period of time.
I mean, even like just this year alone, like I feel like so much has changed, and you've been along the whole ride. So yeah.
So today I want to talk about obviously what's happened within the last year with you, and we're going to talk breakups, we're going to talk healing, finding love again, and things like that. But before that, before like the juicy stuff, let's do some life updates. It's life update corner.
Okay.
So what is new for you? I know obviously I posted about your furniture line coming out, that collaboration. Can you tell the people about it a little bit? Because I want to give you can do like a little shameless plug.
Okay. So I guess that's like the biggest thing is like I just came out with a furniture line collab, which was like a huge dream of mine that I can't even still saying it out loud. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how did that even happen? But so I had a friend of mine that basically just like took a chance on me and gave me my absolute dream collaboration. She owns Studio CT, and we designed a furniture line that just launched 2 days ago. So it's online. It's called Senza Tempo, and you can get it at studioctdesign.com.
Oh my gosh, y'all, this stuff is so great. It's like,
thank you.
You've had these ideas for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, this was 2 years in the making, so it was a long time.
What does it all contain? It's the dresser.
So it's a dresser, a nightstand, a coffee table, and then there's a couple decor pieces like an open book stand, and then there's candles because I'm like a candle freak. I love candles, so we added those in there, and they're just pieces. I mean, the name Senza Tempo just means timeless, so I really wanted pieces in people's homes that were quality and that also like were pieces that could live with you through time. You weren't going to just dispose of. So
they're amazing, amazing pieces. Yeah. And I went to the launch of that. It was the cutest studio and everything like that. I feel like you'll just put it together perfectly.
Yeah.
Josi's really good at curation.
Thanks.
If you guys follow her on social media, you might if you're coming over here to listen to the podcast. But I feel like your life, you curate things so well and it's so aesthetic. So like walking into that launch, it felt so authentic.
Yeah, what's really cool is like both of us are very similar in those ways, so it worked out. It was like literally the perfect partnership because she just did such a good job of like everything. So it's exciting.
It was so exciting. Well, my life update is really no update. This week has been rough.
Really? Like work stuff?
Just like work stuff and like personal life stuff, and like I don't know, the whole holiday thing is just coming up, and it's just a lot to deal with, and like the start of the new year and everything.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I've been kind of taking a back seat and like just laying so low and just not doing anything, honestly. I feel like I've canceled all my plans.
I was just talking about how I have levels of like go, and then I go full recluse and then go, because it's like exhausting.
Yeah, I'm feeling recluse. I'm feeling like emo. I'm feeling just like tired.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I have you on the podcast this week because I know you so well and I don't have to like work to like
have a conversation.
Really like get to know you and like understand what to ask you. Like I can come in here like pretty much just like thinking, okay, well, this is what we'll talk about. And then it's just easy, you know, which I'm grateful for that this week because it's just been, the week from absolute hell.
Oh, good.
But it's ending soon. Yeah. Obviously, tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's
then
Friday.
I'm just going to lay forever.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing I want to talk about. We talked about this before because we were exchanging theories before the White Lotus season finale came out, and we haven't talked about it yet.
Did you watch it?
I watched it.
Okay, yeah.
Spoilers are coming. If y'all have not watched or haven't seen it, just fast forward like a little bit.
Okay.
Because Josie and I were going back and forth on theories.
Yeah.
You got real deep into it and real, almost romantic and artistic with your theory, with like
I did, yeah.
the women kind of like offing the men.
Yes.
Which like there were so many hints at that.
Well, I think I overanalyzed the amount of deaths. So I had assumed that there was like way more deaths than just the one that happened or the ones that happened.
Yeah.
Like I assumed that each little like bracket of characters had a death within it. So I was like trying to figure out of each group, like who's going to die. But still, I think like, and it's actually like a perfect segue for this episode. Like I think the overarching theme though was about like relationships and men and women and scamming and kind of like, you know, tidbits of misogyny and new age relationships and all that kind of stuff. So it was good.
I mean, that's where that part came in, that like we were thinking, okay, well, the women are going to rise and kill the men.
That's what I thought.
And what really it is, it's just talking more about like, it's discussing misogyny, essentially, or the patriarchy in a way.
Yeah, there was a lot of levels in that. I thought the writing in it was like spot on with that. It was so good.
Amazing. Also, I love Audrey Plaza. Is that her name, Audrey or Aubrey?
I think it's Aubrey Plaza.
I think it's Aubrey because when I said it, that didn't sound right. But also, I watched her other movie on Netflix, like Emily the Criminal.
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever.
I need to watch that.
It's Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza, okay.
So that movie was so fucking good.
Yeah.
I just like, she's hard not to love.
Yeah, I like her too. I mean, I just go back to Parks and Rec when I think of her. But yeah.
Do you think she banged Theo James's character?
Yeah, no, I don't actually. I think that I was actually surprised that any of that even happened because I thought she was using it as a way to kind of like get back at him, even if she kind of did. But I don't think that they had sex. I kind of think that what she was saying is true. I think they were probably maybe potentially going to, but I want to ask you, do you think that Ethan and Daphne had sex on that island?
I have no idea.
I think so. Because I think that's kind of what got him to kind of like, because then he had sex with
that makes sense.
Harper later,
Yes,
so
that
I think
so makes sense.
I think that's what happened.
Well, what else are you watching now?
Honestly, we were just Arthur and I were just talking about it. Like, there's nothing on right now to watch. Like, I feel like we blew through everything, and there's like we were trying to watch like old shows and stuff. So my answer is boring. Nothing. We're just like rewatching crap. We watched Prisoners on Netflix right now. It's an older movie. That was really fucking good.
Okay, I need to
You should
think
watch
about that tonight.
It was really good.
Have you seen the Brad Pitt movie, the Bullet Train one?
No.
It's actually good.
Oh, another movie that I'm obsessed with, which is about podcasting. You have to watch it. If you're an Office fan too, it's BJ Novak wrote and directed this movie called Vengeance, and it's on Amazon. You can rent it, but it's about a podcaster that's trying to like write the story and find himself within it. But it's so funny and so good, and he's just I really recommend it.
Well,
Vengeance.
I love The Office. Yes. Obviously.
Yeah. Ashton Kutcher's in it. A bunch of people are in it. It's really good.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay, what about podcasts? What podcast do you listen to?
I mean, don't kill me, but I haven't. I don't listen to many podcasts anymore. I need to get back on it.
You listen to music?
Yeah. I'm like a big music person.
It comes in waves for me. Like sometimes I'll listen to music and then sometimes I'll listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Obviously, crime is always my number one.
Yeah.
Today I listened to The Deck. Obviously, I started the day off with some murder.
Perfect. Love that.
It's beautiful.
We love starting a day off with a good crime.
I know,
perfect.
right?
Yeah.
I've been listening to, I think I mentioned this last week, but AG University. Do you know Anna Grace? Oh, yeah. Remember?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So she started a podcast that is actually,
cool.
It's really, really, really good.
Nice.
Which I hadn't really known the spiritual side of her too much. And then she started the podcast and like now I've gotten to know that side of her a little bit more and like just through the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to like see someone you know.
Totally.
In a different light, I guess. And
she's just about you.
She's really good. Yeah, right? It's
see
a
your
different
friend
vibe.
do that. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, cool.
Well,
check it out.
You have to check it out. Okay, so let's talk about what we really came here to talk about.
Get to the meat and potatoes. I was laughing before I even came here because I was like, you know, for so long I'm such like a private person in this way and I don't like share a lot about relationships or anything unless they're with my close friends. So obviously you've heard and been along for this journey, but like in terms of like me showing this part of myself on the internet, like I don't. And I always would plug like Billie Eilish, I don't talk shit about you on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like after a while, I was like, I feel like it's therapeutic for both me and your audience to like, for me to finally like let out my story, and also hopefully I can fucking help somebody out there who's going through the same thing. So, and
it's more about you and less about the man involved or any man involved. You know, what I mean,
it's
you're sharing your
that.
Story. It's not about bashing someone.
No.
It's about sharing how you dealt with specific events in your life.
Yeah.
Which again, like you said, is really helpful for people.
Exactly.
So let's go back.
Let's go back. Yeah.
Let's go back to, let's say, January of this year.
Okay.
Can you talk about kind of the headspace you were in, kind of where you were, and kind of explain to the audience more so they have like a a starting point?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was further back than January. We'll just take it back to where it's like it's been a year,
Yeah.
basically. But I was in a very long-term relationship. So I was with somebody for almost 9 years, and which is insane when I even say that number out loud. But I was in a toxic relationship basically for a really long time. And I don't mean any ill will towards this person, but it was not a healthy relationship. And I kind of let that relationship exist in like a vacuum for so much of my life. And I had dealt with so much childhood trauma and adult life drama, with my family and a lot of really hardships. And that relationship kind of was a toxic way to like fill that void in my life for so long. It was kind of how I reframed it in my head is like, this is my family. This is all I have. I felt, I was going through a lot of things where I felt really hopeless. I was lost. And that relationship existed for so long, and it was so hard to kind of pop that bubble and look at it from the outside. It was the best way I can think of it is like if you're standing up close to a painting, you're never going to see the whole picture. Like I let myself like exist so face front in it that I only looked at the good parts, and like when you back up and you see the big picture, you're like, holy shit, this is like not good.
Yeah.
So basically just like during that time I was, going through that. And
Can I ask you, what was it that helped you step away from this metaphorical painting?
Yeah.
Like what tools did you use? How did that come about that you were even able to think about stepping away or popping the bubble?
Yeah. So I think for me, like when you're existing in like that toxic cycle of what's kind of called a roller coaster relationship where there's high and low lows, like you expect that, with the high highs, you kind of ignore everything else. You don't want to take a look at everything that's actually happening because it's so hard for you to kind of take a step back in those moments. And I think for me personally, I was in a point in my life where I felt like I had nowhere to go and I had no way to like step back and look. And I think that I got to a point where I realized in order to love this person, I was not loving myself. So the harder I was loving him, the less I started to feel like me and the less I was having any self-worth. And once I was so intertwined and feeling like completely hopeless, I think I realized I needed to take a step back and I needed to pop that bubble by even talking to anybody about it. And I think that was like the huge transition for me was, like I said earlier, like I let that relationship exist in such solitude because I was afraid I was protecting this person for so long because I didn't want people to hate him or judge me. And it was that intertwining of me feeling shame and guilt and not being able to forgive myself for staying in something so toxic for so long, and then also not wanting anybody to know the reality of it. So as soon as I kind of like opened my mouth and was like talking to people and sharing it even in bits and having people who actually genuinely were a support system and care about me, you included in that, who were able to say to me, this isn't right. And once that kind of trajectory happened is when I started to take slow step backs and like look at what I guess the metaphor of the big picture is and see you are not looking at this from a frame that is reality. You're just looking at it from something that you want to be real so bad, and only one little piece of it is good, but most of it is something that's just so detrimental to yourself. So like once I kind of looked at it all, I was like, holy shit, I have completely lost myself along the way, and I needed to be able to see that in order to step away.
Yeah. And I think that's the big key part that takes so much time, because I would assume you've known kind of in your gut and your heart of hearts, like there was something off, there are things made you feel horrible that happened within the relationship for probably a long time.
Yeah.
But having that like almost aha moment, whether it comes through other people or just perspective on yourself or just some like deep internal work, that is such a huge moment.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get there.
It's so hard. And I think that that's like something that I, wanted to say to your audience too, is like, I totally get when you're in that mindset and you're like, there's just no getting out of this and I'm comfortable. I've been in this relationship for so long. How am I going to start over? How am I going to find something new? But when you're essentially disrespecting yourself and not you're having somebody disrespect you and disrespecting yourself in turn by staying in that relationship, like you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to stay in that endless loop and that endless cycle. And for me, like, I think what was hardest for me is I just didn't realize how bad, like, all of those, I mean, I was cheated on for like a really long time. And it's like all those instances of cheating and, feeling like I had just absolutely no self-worth made me feel like there was nowhere to turn. Like I just didn't feel like I could be myself through all of that, and I could even see who I was anymore because I wanted so badly for that relationship to work.
Well, you're a very loyal person, and that's kind of how I am too. Like I'll make things work as much as possible, but then again, obviously when I have the aha moment, it's like, okay, things aren't working ever again.
Yeah.
Like you just get this, like, you're loyal to almost to a fault, but you're also loyal to a certain point. And once that happens, you kind of are like, you get pushed and you are willing to kind of, it's so not within my nature, I guess, to give up. But it's important to do so when you feel like you need to.
And I think that it's not even, it's like, I think I framed it that way and manipulated myself for so long as I'm not giving up on this and framing it as this is love, right? Oh, it's just a hardship that you're going through with loving somebody. Oh, it's just going to be, this is part of being in a relationship is you're supposed to work through this and get through this. But that's just not true. I think that you think loving somebody means staying through all that, but like you really have to, where I'm trying to forgive myself right now, and the biggest thing that was hard through the breakup was forgiving myself for not allowing that to continue. And I was sort of enabling those behaviors for so long because I would continue to forgive and think that this is just part of our journey as a partnership, but it's really just like lies and manipulation that you're telling yourself in order to believe so badly that this is going to work. And I think one of the proudest moments in my life was walking away from it and was saying no more and kind of having that, like, I honestly genuinely felt like I was in like a coma for so long. I just didn't see the reality of the situation at all. And the second that I stepped away from it, I was like, wow, that's not something I should have stayed in for that long. And I wish that I could have told myself a long time ago to love myself enough, like, to say no more,
Well, let's talk about kind of, when we're talking about saying no more, what was the final straw for you, or was there one? Because I remember y'all had somewhat of a long kind of breakup.
Yes.
Because there was the move out process.
Yeah.
And so what really for you made you have that conversation?
I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that when you make the decision to leave somebody, it's a long process. So you kind of end that relationship before the relationship's actually ended. And I kind of was mentally checked out for a year before I even broke up with him because I was so afraid to leave. And I think that the fear is what kept me for so long. But I knew, and I think most people do know, and I remember when I posted on my Instagram stories for questions, a lot of people asked, how do you know when it's time to leave? And I think if you're even asking that question, right? If you start asking yourself, I'm not happy, I feel like I want to leave, I don't know how I would do this, it's probably because you're already checked out. I feel like for me, I was so unhappy. I just became like a shell of a person. I think for me, it was a systematic thing. Like there was, the cheating, and then after the cheating, it was, I'm sorry, let me make this better to you. I'm going to be the person you want. And then I would start to trust again and lean towards this person. As soon as I did that and things were really good, it would happen again, and it would happen again, and it would happen again. And so I got to the point where through that happening so many times, I just lost myself completely. And I think that once I realized there's no hope in this future, and that's the big thing and the big takeaway that I want people to kind of think about when they're thinking about how do I leave or when is the right time to leave, is when you think about the future, when you think about this person as going into your life and actually being the partner that you need, is that there? Is there the support you need? Is there the love you need? Is there a future together? Because if you get to that point and you hit a wall and there's no way to move forward, then it's time to go. And I got to that point. I realized nothing I do was going to change. It didn't matter how hard I loved him, how any tactic that I tried to make it better, couples therapy, anything. there was no future. And I decided I'm going to love and respect myself enough to make a future for myself and leave.
Let's get into that
Yeah.
because I remember that whole process. I remember we were texting, you know,
Yeah.
early stages, and everyone has those moments of like, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
Is this correct for me? You're upset. You're kind of, I don't know, it's just like a chaos and like whirlwind. Can
Yeah.
you bring us through that first, like maybe like week or so when you're kind of almost in denial?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, and that's exactly where I was, is I was to a point where it was such a big decision for me, and so many levels of that were such a big decision, because it wasn't just walking away from a relationship. It was walking away from somebody who I had identified as my family. So I didn't really feel like I had family or had a support system that I needed. And when you're with somebody throughout your entire 20s, you grow so much together. So you think, this is my life. And so for me, it wasn't just walking away from that. It was walking away from my best friend. It was walking away from my support system, from my family. And I think during that phase, was so afraid. I was so scared to lose all of that, to start over. How the hell would I ever trust anybody again after that? How am I supposed to even start relationships again? What the fuck is dating going to be like now, almost 10 years later, with dating apps and all that shit? And so I was constantly teetering between staying in what I thought was comfortable and leaving into the uncomfortability. And I think the way that I did it, that I think helped me the most, was reframing it in my brain, instead of such a hopeless moment, the breakup, of framing it as like an exciting part of my life. And so it's almost like you didn't lose somebody, like you got lucky that you walked away, because that time in your life where you're going through that emotional turmoil is like a pivotal moment in your life of change, where you're deciding for your life to do better, and you're deciding for your life that this is going to be a change that propels me into the future rather than keeps me stagnant in this time. And so though I was like teetering back and forth of like, should I do this? I'm scared. He's my best friend. I remember saying to you so many times, like, you don't get it. He's my person. You don't get it. He's my best friend. How can I leave? How can I do this? It was, I should leave and I should do this, because this is not right for me at all anymore.
Yeah, you just didn't like who you were at the end of the day with him also. And
exactly.
And making it simple, kind of. So right after y'all break up, you had this moment. We had this, you had an emotional time, obviously.
Yeah.
And then comes the big thing of you're in your home that you've shared with him, and he's obviously not there anymore.
Yeah.
And you're living there, and you're deciding, like, do I leave this home?
Yeah.
Do I pack up and move somewhere else? I think there was probably fear there, too, to let go of that as well.
There's so many, like, layers to that as well, because it's like you live in this home with somebody that you have, kind of framed as an extension of the relationship, right? So like the place that I was living in was not only what I framed as a safe space for me, it was an extension of us. And so living there after we broke up, for a little bit too, that was another like piece of the puzzle that was hard for me to give up, because I felt like it was my way to kind of keep my claws into something that was gone. And it was like living in a haunted house. Like the walls were just like embedded with us, and even sleeping in the same bed and living in that house was probably one of the hardest things I went through. And I remember just realizing that in order to really make these changes in my life and to really like actually walk away from the relationship meant walking away from everything that it was tied to, including the place that I was living. So it was like making the decision to completely change my life and everything in it. Like not only just leaving the relationship, but changing where I lived, realizing that people in my life weren't serving me anymore, and finding myself after 9 years of being not myself and feeling like my identity was that relationship. So like learning myself again and what I wanted from my life and where I wanted to live was part of it.
Yeah. And you didn't like block his number or anything like that. You guys kept in touch through the whole thing, and still sometimes to this day, obviously, just for random tidbits here and there. And I know now, like into the future, we're jumping forward to present. I know now not even non-relation, it's like the friendship almost that you have with the same guy, you are not tempted to go back. You're not tempted to call him in times of like distress. Like I think you have a very healthy relationship with that. And some people need that like the blocking of the number and the, that's like that's like breakup 101. You hear from everyone, like block the number, do not talk to them, do not call them, do not text them, do not answer, like do not get on Instagram and stalk them. Like you need to have a clean break for a sec and just like figure yourself out. And I think it's interesting that you did all of that while kind of being still in contact,
Yeah. And I'll say that that's something that I don't stand by. Like I think that and here's the thing, like breakups aren't universal. Like not everybody's going to have the same type of breakup. It might be like a really cordial breakup and it might be something that you can have a friendship, but I will say that I do think that once you do make that decision to leave, you really do have to have a clean break. And for me, I think it was hard for me because I wanted something beautiful to come out of that relationship. I wanted something good to have happened even through the breakup because I was having such a hard time forgiving myself for what I felt like was wasting so much of my life with the wrong person. So I thought, okay, well, if we can have a friendship after this and he could still be my family, and maybe that's the beautiful thing that came of it, it would make me feel better. But in reality, that's just you holding on to something still. And so I personally think, and again, this is not right for everybody, but I think when you really decide that that relationship isn't good, you really need to take a complete step away from it and detox from it, because that ended up hindering me in the initial breakup from healing and jumping into things and dating faster than I should have, because I didn't take that time in solitude. I kind of still leaned on that to help me. And that's hard for me to admit. But it's true,
absolutely. I mean, that takes inner work. And that really hasn't even been that long since that point. So the fact that you're already here understanding that is huge. So let's talk about how it was dating after that, because you, like you said, kind of jumped in with 2 feet. Got on dating apps. I think at first it was more of, I remember, because I wasn't living here at the time, but I remember you being like, I'm dating this guy and I'm dating this guy and I'm going to be a heartbreaker, like through the whole phase. Because you didn't get era. Didn't get like true villain era, Joe, because you started dating your ex at 21, right? So I think a lot of things were like happening to me during that time. I like, even before that relationship, I was somebody that never experienced life. Like I was somebody who worked 2 jobs, went to community college, then went to college, then went to my master's program. I never went out. I never had fun. I never was dating. I never had crazy stories like my friends had. I just was working and being in that toxic relationship for so long. And so I felt like after I left, I wanted to like find me again and have fun and have these crazy experiences and date and see what dating apps were like and all those things. But I don't feel like I took enough time to myself to sit with it. And so looking back at the breakup, I'm so proud of myself for leaving, but I do wish that I took a little bit of time just to really not avoid it and feel it all and sit with it and use that time more for me, because I just jumped right into being like, okay, I'm going to party. I'm going to make up for lost time. I'm going to get on all the dating apps. And you went for it.
Yes.
I will say, so I did an episode with my friend Kimberly, and it was called Who You Met in New York.
I loved her. Yeah, she was great.
So we did a guide to your best breakup ever. And she's like a couple years out from her last breakup that shattered her, she said. And like, she gives such good advice because she's, one, so smart. And I love how like authentic to herself she is, but like compassionate she is, and like she just gets it. And so we have that episode up right now, and she talks a lot about these things, like she calls it mashed potato phase, like right after you break up, like you need to feel the shittiest you've ever felt in your life and get it out.
One of the best pieces of advice that like somebody ever gave me a long time ago was like, cry your eyes out, listen to all the sad songs, watch all the sad movies, sit in your house, whatever, and really feel it all. And then at some point you do have to get up again, which means even if you take it, like for me, like I didn't eat, I just was like on the floor as a fucking puddle for like days after that, thinking like there's no way anything's ever gonna get better. I'm never gonna feel okay again. I'm never gonna want to be with anybody again. But it is true, and I know it's so hard to hear when you're going through a breakup, but like you will stand up again. Like, and I think that part of the mashed potato thing that she was talking about is like letting yourself be that for a little bit, and then taking the steps to even get up and shower, go to coffee with a friend for 30 minutes and then go back home and cry, but take those small steps to just try to, you know, I almost say like fake it till you make it, but with a twist where it's like you have to try and be okay, but at the same time while acknowledging that this fucking sucks and it's going to suck for a little bit, and letting yourself feel that, but also getting up. And
well, it's like giving yourself grace, but understanding there's hope at the end.
Yes.
Kind of for a better life. You have to get through this portion of it to even see that kind of. So let's talk about the dating apps.
Yes. Yeah.
You signed up for all the apps.
I did. I signed up.
You had the Hinge. You had Raya.
The ultimate war. People always talk about Hinge or Raya or whatever. Yeah.
I think Hinge is used for dating. There's no one I ever really met up with from Raya that like was actually supposed to be someone I was dating. Obviously, I met Joe on Raya, but like, that's the only person. I was on there from 21 to 26 when I met Joe. Not one single time did I use it as an actual dating app.
Yeah, no, Raya is not great at all. Like the way it's even built is really not, like, I don't think it's built for dating at all, if I'm honest. Like you go on there, you flip through, you see pictures of people, and then you match, and then 99% of the time either they DM you or message you and go hi and you don't respond, or they, or you say something and it's like it kind of falls flat basically. And I don't think it's built, like the design of it is not really built to create relationships. I think you got lucky, or maybe you guys both put in the work, and I think there's obviously a chance you can meet somebody in any situation if two people are willing to like actually get to know each other. Yeah.
And you're in the same place, right? It's not location based, obviously. Like it is supposed to be for like bougie LA, New York kind of thing. It's not supposed to be for dating. So when people ask that question, I'm like, Hinge. If you want to actually go on dates, go on Hinge.
Yeah.
People on Raya are in freaking Ibiza right now. Like they're not in your area.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's like guys, they'll be like, can I fly you out to like whatever city they're playing? And like it's not real dating.
No.
So I feel like Hinge is realistic.
It is. And I think the way that it's built is I think Hinge is definitely built to work. Like I know that their slogan is like the dating app that you're supposed to delete at the end, and like it does, but I honestly think that with all types of media, whether it's Hinge or Instagram or anything, like it's all about what you put into it and what you're getting out of it. So like if you're on there just to hook up, or somebody's on there just to hook up, like that's kind of what they're going to put out there. And you at the end of the day have to like look at it as, while it's like a good first initial thing, you have to like take it that one step further and like kind of get to know that person, feel it out, have conversations with them, and instead of just, flipping through pictures and deciding that that's the person you're going to date or whatever, because the work comes after that initial. But I think those dating apps are perfect for finding people, and getting to know people and going on dates. Yeah. But it's all about what you do after that. Like that really counts.
I agree. That's a good measure. Because I always say talk on the dating app, but get to some form of communication outside of the app.
Yes.
If you're serious about seeing this person and stuff, like phone or, Instagram, if they DM you, like something else outside of, obviously texting would be ideal.
Yeah.
Direct.
Yeah. If you don't feel comfortable giving somebody's number, I think it's fine to like message on there. But I mean, like I was the type of person on Hinge, I had like so many conversations, and like I feel like when that conversation can move forward. Like there is like a certain first tier level of like talking to that person of, okay, like this is somebody that's actually good at engaging in conversation, and you do get a good initial feel for somebody there. But I think it is, like we just said, all about moving off of that into what is going to work or what's not going to work. And so you met male number 2 of this year. I did, on Hinge.
Can you take us through kind of, because now we're getting in, into the area where you're saying I wish I hadn't had rushed into this. So can you give us like kind of a timeline of like how you first connected with him, when this was after you moved out, you know?
And I feel like all of this is like my way of telling you guys, like, this is what how my story went, and almost like as kind of a cautionary tale, if you will, because it's like, I think when I talked about earlier, like existing in a vacuum and not like knowing which way to turn, part of the reason why I even wanted to sit here and do this with you is to have it so that people can hear these stories and go, okay, like, don't do this. Yeah. So when I got, obviously, like I said, it was such a long-term 9-year relationship, and I didn't do the work initially up front. I just went right into being like party and dating and all that. And so I did meet a guy on Hinge, and initially when I was, on those dating apps, I really was like, I'm not looking to be in a full-fledged relationship. I'm going to go be single. I'm going to go do my thing. And I remember the night, like I was supposed to go on a date with him. I didn't even want to go. Like my sister was like, you need to just start going on dates. Like go try, put yourself out there. And I was like, okay. So I went out and it wasn't even that good of a first date. Like it was good, but it wasn't anything. And I just remember because I was so wanting to fill that void at that time in my life with things that I shouldn't be, like dating, like guys, that I was love bombed essentially. So this person made it out like, oh, I'm basically going to do everything that your ex didn't do for you, right? So it's like, oh, you like going on dates, I'm going to take you on dates. Oh, he never bought you flowers, I'm going to buy you flowers. And so that is something that I think we all have the ability to kind of get tricked by, is everybody, just like an extension of a dating app, is going to show you their best sides first, and they want to be with you. So they're going to show you all of the good things, all that they have to offer. And I kind of think that's what's wrong with dating nowadays, is we all like rush into things too fast. We're kind of don't have the patience, and we over romanticize things where we don't really take that much time to get to know somebody. So if you're jumping into something in that initial phase where somebody's showing you all the best parts of them, of course you're going to want to jump into a relationship with them. You're going to be like, oh, this is perfect. This is everything I wanted. Like, amazing. People can only wear a mask for so long. After a couple months, you really start to see the things, oh, this part of this person annoys me, or this is really who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that with that phase in my life, I wasn't taking my time. I was just rushing right into something that I felt like would replace all of those things and fill that void for me. And it ended up being a situation that was, I was completely blindsided by. I rushed into a relationship with somebody who didn't have the ability to love me back. And I think he wanted just to...
I think he wanted to cosplay a relationship.
Maybe.
Kind of. Like, that's the vibe I was getting from him. Like, I feel like maybe he didn't understand what work looks like in a relationship, and it was more about like him getting something he wanted.
Yeah, because once things I feel like got hard and real is when, it kind of hit the fan. And I think that that's something that I wish that I did and that I learned from that was I really want like to emphasize how important it is, I think, to like get to know somebody and really take your time with it and go slow. Like, don't just fall for all of the roses and the dates and the romantic the romantic parts of it. You want to take the time to know that person's great side and their ugly side and show them your vulnerable side. And if they choose to stick around after that, that's like a huge testament that it's going to work. But if you start opening up to somebody and showing them, your needs and what you need and actually be a real human that takes work to be with, and they run, then that's, what you don't want for your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, so you moved out finally of your place and into a new one in like what, January-ish?
No, so that was way after. So I moved in June. So
okay, well, how am I thinking it was January? Because you lived there for like a while.
Yeah. So I think, part of it was my lease wasn't up for a while, and then what really happened is when that breakup happened, I realized that both breakups happened at once for me. Like I never processed the first
breakup number 2.
Yes.
And this happened in June too, right?
In May, yeah.
In May, okay. Yeah. So within not even 6 months.
Yeah.
We're going through
another
the second breakup. Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that point I had really hit like a super intense rock bottom where I felt, I had rushed into this and I didn't take the time to get to know myself at all and what I wanted, and then just was realizing that breakup was so hard for me, not because of the relationship itself, but because both had happened in such a short duration apart that I felt them both at the same time. And I realized in that moment, I am going to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again and finding people that aren't right for me and putting myself in this situation if I don't do the hard work and change.
Yeah.
And so coupled with the fact that I felt like I was living in a haunted house, I was going through 2 breakups, I was not knowing what to do with my life, I just kind of finally decided, okay, if you are going to have a successful relationship and a successful future for yourself, it's time to put yourself in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which I had put off for so long, and deal with this. Like,
Yeah.
not avoid it, not run from it, not date people just because it's going to fill a void, but like
Or if
do the work
it
for
feels
real.
good. It feels
Yeah.
good to do that. And it's hard to say no when it feels so good.
Exactly.
I'm so proud of you for going to therapy, and you
Thank
love
you.
your therapist.
Yeah, he's the best. I like was really lucky in finding somebody that I felt like helped me through that so much and made me see how beautiful of a moment all of that was. And like, I can't reiterate that enough of how much you look back at those really hard moments and those rock bottom moments, and you really have to change the narrative. And that's what my therapist taught me, is what you tell yourself in your brain is what you believe. And so if you believe that those breakups are something you're never going to recover from and something you're never going to come back from, you're going to believe that. But if you not trick yourself, but tell yourself that, like, be grateful for this moment, like thrive from it, take that pain and all of that and use it to change and use it to not make the same mistakes. Because I think why people are in repetitive toxic relationships, and I'm speaking for myself personally, is because I didn't do the inner work to heal from any of those. And so you will repeat the same mistakes in different people because
it's comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you learn, okay, all of those things that I don't like and all of those red flags that you know exist with both relationships, they were there from the start. The people will tell you who they are in the beginning. You just kind of want to romanticize it so much and that you ignore it. But once you kind of pay attention to those and listen to your intuition and have done the work to actually start loving yourself and seeing yourself as somebody who deserves love, who deserves what you think is the perfect relationship for yourself, and find what your actual needs are, that's when you start to break that cycle. You start to walk away and initially see that, okay, this person's great, but they don't have what I need, or they're not going to offer me what I need, and move on from it, rather than trying to fit these puzzle pieces together that are never going to fit.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I remember going through that because I've sat here and seen, the back end of everything and just all the back and forth. And, I was the one that was like, I've been single for most of my life and most of my 20s. And then you hadn't been single for most of your 20s. So we were kind of trying to like draw on each other for like advice when it came to relationships and when it came to single life. But I remember that time, and I remember the first time I went to your house and you said something about what your therapist said, and you like explained it to me, and I was just like, oh my God, she did it.
Yeah.
She started therapy. And you were like, Josie's like, oh my God, you changed my life today. Like, listen to what he said. I'm like, like this is the beauty of therapy, because when you find the right one, it's transformative. But I want to talk about, what's some things that really hit you hard or really spoke to you during your time in therapy. I don't know if you're still in it right now, but so far,
I think for me, it was about going back and doing the inner work. And I think that that's the hardest part that I, for so long, wanted to avoid. And I realized that a lot of those relationships, a lot of what made them crumbled is I initially didn't feel, I felt hopeless in my life. And I felt a lot of, I had bigger issues from, my childhood trauma that were playing such a large role in those relationships. And I wanted so badly to ignore them. And once you kind of are faced with having to hit them head on, you develop these pathways where you see like, oh my, like the way I explained it to my therapist was I felt like I had all of these things that were happening in my life, but there was no way to connect them. Like all of these cords were completely cut, and I felt lost. I felt in a room like I didn't know which way to turn, and I was constantly spinning. And with each therapy session, a cord was connected. And once those were connected, I had a pathway to see, okay, this is why this is happening. Because back here, this is making me feel this way, which is resulting in this. And once you can see that path clearly is when you don't repeat those same things over and over again. Yeah. So, for example, I felt so tormented by the fact that I stayed in a relationship that was so bad for me and so detrimental. And now looking back and seeing why I stayed and why maybe I was afraid to leave made it so that I would never do that again.
And you kind of forgive yourself. Yeah. You understand now, and you see yourself and you think, okay, I can give myself grace for this, and I can forgive myself now because I see, like, it logically makes sense that I would act this way.
That's the hardest part of it too, is I think learning to not only forgive that person for the things that they did, because I really think that that's a huge stepping stone of this, is somebody leaving and somebody doing horrible things to you is something that you have to learn to forgive them for, even when they don't give you an apology. And further than that, though, forgiving yourself for forgiving yourself for risking for love, and for, maybe doing some things that are gonna kind of develop scars and kind of hurt you, but that you can fix it and you can move forward and you can make a better life for yourself. And you have to forgive yourself for those moments that you were in, because even if they didn't happen, you would never be who you are now. So it's almost like you have to thank yourself and forgive yourself at the same time for going through that and learning from it, rather than, looking back at it as like, oh my God, I completely ruined my life and now I'm never going to be able to fix it. So
yeah, it's all in your head.
Yeah.
Well, now months and months later, you're happily in a relationship with a little angel.
Yeah, he's the best.
And the way y'all started this relationship is so different than your others, I would say. I feel like y'all were friends and really got to know each other for a long time first. I feel like you were definitely the one being like, I don't want to commit. I don't want to commit to this. Like, I want to feel not single in a way they're going out and going crazy, but just like be myself and stand in my own power, essentially, and just have, people at an arm's length, almost men at an arm's length.
Exactly. I think like I learned that like I no longer wanted to rush into things, and I really wanted to take the time to do things the right way. I wanted, if I wanted a relationship again, I wanted it to actually be sustainable and not be something that crumbles midway. And I think a lot of that comes in the initial phase of it, because if you don't take the time to get to know somebody, you're going to take the time to learn them during your relationship once you decide to commit. And it might not work out because you didn't take all those initial steps to learn everything about somebody. And a lot of that came with the work on my end of being vulnerable from the front. Like, I decided that instead of playing games and dating and showing somebody this best side of yourself and, making it out like you're perfect or all these things are great about you, I just went right into this by being vulnerable and being really honest and showing all of my scars and taking my time and saying, hey, I'm not ready, and setting boundaries for that, and saying, I wanted to take more time to get to know him before I decided that we're going to be in a relationship, because that decision, I think, shouldn't be taken lightly, you know? So I really made it a point, and he was really understanding about it of, I'm not going to jump into this until I feel like this is something that's worth fully going into. And I think I give him a lot of credit too, of where, he saw all of my twists and scars and he didn't try to untie them. He just let me exist as I was and didn't try to be a hero, which is where I felt, my past relationship, the last one after, my 9-year breakup, I tried to be like the hero and try to fix all of those things and fill the void for me. And, oh, he didn't take you on dates, I'm going to do that. He didn't buy you flowers, I'm going to do that. This one is more like, I see all of that and I acknowledge it with you, and I'm here to stand by you and support you, but I'm not here to be your hero and fix it. You have to do that for yourself. And he had enough self-worth and love to also realize that he wasn't going to, take my bullshit either. And that was also what attracted me. I was like, oh, okay, shit, I have all this trauma and stuff, but you have self-love and you have self-worth and you're mature, and you're not going to be somebody who's going to, put up with toxicity either,
When you're ready for that relationship, it comes into your life.
Yeah.
Because I feel like toxicity can be exciting and it can feel like love in all of the ways, but like for me at least, I like a steady hand. You know what I mean? I want someone who's themselves and they aren't going to take shit from you, but they are going to be nice to you and kind to you. And again, the hero piece there was like kind of I hadn't heard it put that way before. And I hadn't even thought about that, because I knew Josi's all of the relationships relatively well. I didn't know the first one personally, but I just knew obviously a lot about him. And we talked at length about that a lot. And we talked at length about male number 2 a lot. And I can just tell how much more relaxed you are with Arthur. And I think it's a testament of just being around you guys. He just is so great. But again, you wouldn't have found that had you not gone through the fucking chaos
Exactly.
of the last year and then being pushed to get to know yourself more and kind of untangle things for yourself, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have this amazing relationship
Mm-hmm.
out of just heartbreak, kind
Yeah.
of, and you've healed.
I think that it's like, it's kind of like what Ariana Grande says, is like, thank you. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
thankful. I'm so fucking thankful for my ex because
Mhm.
it's true. Like, but it really depends on what you do with those. And I think that each one of them was a stepping stone into getting into a healthy relationship. But it's really about what you do with those breakups. You can
Mhm.
choose to repeat the same cycle and do the same thing over and over again. But once you go back and you do that inner work and you see what you need, I always word it as not like what you want in a relationship, but what are your needs in a relationship? What do you really want in a partner? And once you get to know yourself more, and that's the only way to know that, then you can find a partner that actually meets those needs rather than meeting a partner that's going to fill voids, because
Yeah.
that's the big distinction. And I think for so long I was repeating the same things in order to fix, my childhood trauma or fix things about those relationships because I felt like that would make me feel better. But
Mhm.
I really had to do it on my own in order to change that cycle and actually go into something that's different and better, because that's literally the definition of insanity, is repeating the
Yeah.
same things and expecting different results. It's not going to happen if you keep doing it over and over again.
Mhm. So you need to adopt a new perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy for you. I'm very proud of
Thanks.
you
Thank
to
you.
see you sitting here and saying, like, discussing it so outright, not only publicly, because I know like it's not your thing usually, but also like the actual things you're saying. I'm very proud that you've made it from the point where you're texting me on the couch and it's raining outside and it's, you're in your old place and you're like, I fucking hate my life.
Yeah.
Just a year ago.
Yeah.
To now, it's been huge. And also like seeing you through obviously like the summer and all the turmoil that happened there. And it's such good advice for people going through something similar.
I hope so.
Whether it's listening to you say, you're almost saying like, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Yeah.
You did some of the right things for sure. So there's obviously tidbits that you did that people can pick up on, but I think it's great that you can acknowledge the places that you've kind of gone awry and things went wrong or why they went wrong, kind of connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So at the end of the episode, we usually do like a note to yourself. This one I say usually, I've been doing it for 2 weeks. So I told you to bring a note for yourself this week. Because this whole episode has been like kind of a note to yourself. But if you want to throw in one, you can talk about one this week or one that you would say to yourself this time last year.
Yeah. I think I'm going to read it. Okay. So, Arthur actually got me this book, and it's just like so kismet of like our relationship, because I feel like he just obviously like helped me to see that I needed to like do the inner work, but also was very supportive of like my breakups and stuff, what happened. But anyway, this book's called A Gentle Reminder. If anybody's ever heard of it, it's really amazing. And it's all about going through breakups. So I highly recommend it if anybody's doing that. But it says, you deserve to be loved the way you love others. You deserve to feel seen. You deserve to sleep beside someone who tries not to quiet your heartbeat or passion or the way you show up in this world. You deserve to be with a kind of person who loves all of your twists and doesn't try to untie them. You deserve to love someone who does not judge you for the ways in which you kill your sadness, someone who does not hold your past against you. You deserve to be chosen and never to be loved in halves. You deserve someone who is sure of you. You deserve someone who stays. However, you also deserve to be that person for yourself. For your capacity to be alone, your capacity to be your own home, your own foundation is going to directly reflect the way you love these human beings when they come into your life. When you know yourself, when you stand up for your heart, you do not bankrupt who you are just to keep half loves in your life. Love becomes less about filling a void. Love becomes less about possession, less about dependence, and it transforms into something that can fully be deeply appreciated and felt, because you are not afraid that loss will destroy you. You are not afraid of being without it, because you will know you will always have that in yourself.
I love that. Well, I think that's a great thing to say to yourself every day.
Every day, yeah.
Especially yourself last year, anyone who's going through a breakup right now. And on that note, for me, I think my note to myself this week is to be looking inward more. So in times of chaos and stress or whatever it is, like look inward and find that home that I've built in myself.
Yeah.
And kind of goes along the same vein, like relax into it a little bit more through chaos.
Yeah. I think like trusting yourself and you know
You're
who you are. Yeah.
Things are going to be okay for you.
Remember who you are. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Josi.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks for having
sharing.
me. You're
Finally.
welcome. I know.
Thank you for trusting me to share.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for everyone to hear your story.
Yeah. I hope it helps people. So
awesome.